Get pucked.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of Get Pucked. With me tonight is Dave, 32 Trentadue, and Matt, Don't Waste My Time Mandel. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Doing good.
We're going to find you guys some nicknames. Dave, yours is fitting. Matt,
Don't waste my
about
time.
that.
I like it.
Don't waste my time.
Yeah,
like
that's
it.
because
I
of
like
last episode. You said, don't waste my time, so it stuck with me. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good for you.
Great.
Good, man. Good. Very good. Pumped.
You're pumped. Did you guys catch that game?
Pumped.
Did you catch that game last night?
Sure did.
Yeah.
Seems like if the Habs win, it's by shutouts. That's 2 out of 3 wins is shutouts against the same team. But yeah, very, very pumped. It was a good game. Good effort. Probably the best game they played all season.
You want them to face Detroit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
6
Only
more
they
season.
Detroit.
They'll make the playoffs if they face Detroit. It's ironic when you think of it. 2 seasons ago, we couldn't even beat them, and we didn't. Fast forward 2 years later, and we're 2-0 against them. Not bad.
But can't beat anybody else. So
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got San Jose, first time in over 20 years. Let's see what happens.
point.
But
Good point.
before we
Good
jump on talking about the last night's game and Suzuki's goal and some of the other topics, I want to change things up a little bit. We're going to play a game. This segment's going to be called Trade or Shade. And the purpose of this game... Trade or Shade. The purpose of this game is I want you guys, each of you, to come up with a trade scenario or trade package or even a player that... It has to be realistic, though, that you guys would trade today to acquire to better Montreal's team. If I like the trade and it makes sense, I'll go ahead and say trade. If I don't like it, I'm going to throw a lot of shade at it. And I'm going to dissect it as to why I think that would not work. Now, like I said, you got to be realistic. Don't come at me with saying Connor McDavid and I would trade, Paul Byron to get him. It's not going to work. I'll laugh at you, and everybody who's listening will laugh at you.
Edmonton would have to add. You're right.
And I want the dollars and cents have to make sense a little bit, right? Okay. What I'm saying is you can't take in a $10 million player or a $9 million player if that's what you're planning to do, to only give up an entry-level contract. Now, this doesn't mean it has to be a top 6 forward or top 4 defenseman. It could be even a 4th liner or a 3rd liner that you think that the Montreal Canadiens would definitely love to have and they're in need of having, like they have a need for that.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start off with Dave. I want to hear it from you if you're ready.
All right. I mean, it depends on what just looking at what they have and what their needs are. Obviously, you'd want a center somewhere. So my first initial thought would be to go for Dylan Strome, someone who's available. Dylan Strome, quick and easy. But I'll go another route. I think they still need help in defense. And I know he's a bit overrated, but I like Vince Dunn out of Seattle. He's a player on the Blues, trade bait for a lot of people, never really went anywhere, finally joins the Seattle Kraken expansion team. And he's a guy who, he can move the puck. He can add a little layer. He plays that, left defense spot. He could play with Petrie. He could play anywhere. He plays both sides, but he could play left defense a bit better. That's someone who's realistically Seattle Kraken not doing well, not going anywhere this season. If I were them, I'm looking to, add draft picks. I'm looking to add prospects. So, I could send someone like, I don't know. The first name that comes to mind would be Josh Brook, but I don't even think that'd be necessary. I think a couple of a 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick would get that trade done because they're looking to flip their assets anyways. And Vince Dunn is someone realistically that the Habs probably could attain. I mean, obviously, if you want to go for the home runs, I take a swing at Phil Kessel, and on a long-term basis,
oh my God,
to shake things up, I'd go see what William Nylander costs in Toronto.
Whoa! It'll be a king's ransom to pry him out of Toronto, especially being Montreal.
They're so stuck, man. They're gonna have to.
He's got a good point.
I don't think it'll be this year. So if we're talking right now, like that, forget it. That's not gonna happen. But I mean, it depends on what this trade and shade is all about. It's the first edition. I don't know if you mean long term, short term. What you mean?
Hey man, it could be short term, could be long term. So far, I won't lie. I'm liking the names you mentioned. It's a bit out of the box.
Right.
Versus, some If we had anybody else, they'd probably be bringing up certain names that we've heard so many times before and are likely not coming to Montreal, which I think Matt is going to bring up. So
I'm just trying to be realistic. I think I'm trying to be, something that could actually happen.
I like it. I like it so far, but we'll see. We'll see. It's simmering in my mind right now while Matt has this bewildered look on his face.
Well, because I got to be honest with you. So I had written down 3 names thinking about it quickly, and Vince Dunn was one of the names. So I'm not going to go there, but I really thought that would be a no-brainer for all the reasons that Dave said. I think Seattle is right for the pickings. I think they're willing and very ready to load up on picks to look forward to the big draft that's coming up. And I think Vince Dunn would slot in very, very well on this defense. That being said, that was Dave's pick. I'm not going to do it. He also mentioned Dylan Strome. However, he didn't actually say he would do Dylan Strome first, so I will take that one. I think Strome would be a pretty solid get. What I would give up for him, and admittedly, I'm awful when it comes to these types of things for trade scenarios. I pick players that I would like, but the package to get back is
you're like a typical Montreal fan. You end up always giving up
so,
bottom of the barrel players.
Okay. So that in mind, not to get too long winded, I would trade Lehkonen and a second for Dylan Strome. I'm the Vince Dunn deal. I'm going to leave to the side. The other one I thought about, and this one is, I don't see it being an unbelievable addition to the team, but I kind of think that there's a lot of untapped potential there. I want Max Comtois from Anaheim.
I like it.
And I would also do Lehkonen at maybe not a second though. I would do maybe like an AHLer that they might want, or a late round pick. One of those, like a third or a fourth, to get them at the table. Those would be mine too. Realistic. I'm staying away from Jack Eichel and stuff. I know I want Eichel Montreal, but I'm not going to go there. It's too complicated to how to make that work.
So it's ironic because Dylan Strome, if you recall, was a 3rd overall pick in 2015, right after Jack Eichel, right? In the Connor McDavid draft. When McDavid, Eichel, and Dylan Strome, and and Dylan Strome was someone the Leaf fans really, really wanted, right? Because the Leafs were picking 4th that year, and they ended up picking Mitch Marner, which ended up being
Oh, shucks. Oh, shucks.
Which apparently the fans want to move on from, but sure.
But, okay. That's another discussion for another day of their craziness. But Dylan Strome is a guy who, he had all this potential, right? A top 3 pick. He had the size. He looked like he was going to be, light the world on fire in the NHL, and didn't pan out for whatever reason.
Well, look who drafted him. Yeah, that's the reason.
That's the reason. He's not doing too well in Chicago either, right? And who knows if he just needs another change of scenery or maybe just a little bit of time. I don't know what he needs, but he's definitely an interesting acquisition.
I think the ceiling is high there. I think there's still a lot of potential that could be reached with this kid. And I think he is, like you said, I mean, this is the second team. He's not doing overly great. I don't know. I think he's got up 1 point registered on the season, maybe 2. Yeah, he got scratched. I mean, his time on ice, I got it here on the sides, very low. Like this is a prime candidate. The Habs are, sadly, after we thought they'd be deep down the middle, we could use another guy like that, and get him at 3, maybe 2, with Dvorak moving up and down. What's happening there? Maybe get Drouin out of center, moving back to where the wing where he should be. I think that would be a good one. Those 2 guys, Comtois and Strome, are my main guys, and Dunn is my is Dave's pick.
Dunn is not yours. Dunn is not yours.
I like the Comtois as well. By the way, he's struggling a little bit in Anaheim, also out of the lineup certain games. So
yep.
One last thing on Strome is just my fear of Strome is he comes here and they put him in like that 2 spot and he just underperforms, and then he gets out of the lineup and that's it, and then he's just written off as a write-off, right? Like I think that the Habs need centers way too much, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on him, and maybe he'll excel, who knows? But it's a big fear of mine that they rush him another kid once again because that's all they have. They need to play him.
I mean, I think just quickly, he fits 3C here. Yeah, I think Evans is 4C. I think Dvorak's your 2, Suzuki's your 1, and I think he rides that 1, 2, 3, 4 straight. If we were to get Strome, the Habs, if they were to get Strome, I think that would be what I would do for the remainder of the season. Like, don't move that, barring an injury there. Right. Let him work at it. Let him play it out. Let it see, and then who knows? Maybe he builds his confidence up, and then you have it becomes a good problem. Who's a 2C? That to me would be it'd be a gamble I think is worth taking. Is my point.
Okay, so I had some time to think about it, and
Okay.
although I
GM Vito over here.
all although I like Maxime Comtois, I think for Montreal it'd be too much of another gamble in a sense. We need something that like, it makes the team better now and going forward. And it's not to say Maxime Comtois won't reach his potential. I just that we have enough players where we're trying to gamble and trying to see what they're going to become. We need something that's a little bit more proven. I prefer going for Vince Dunn, given what the Montreal Canadiens need right now. They also need a center. So, yes, Dylan Strome and Vince Dunn, if it would be at all possible to acquire both players, would be great. But if I had to pick just one, seeing as Edmondson is coming back, and it would be nice to see on the left side, Edmondson, then you have Dunn, and then Romanov. I would like to see that. The only thing that's making me question Dunn is the Montreal's prospects on the left side coming up eventually. Whether it's Gooley next season or whatnot, there's some prospects on the left side that are coming, and then maybe it'll put a player, somebody on the left might be out of place at that point. So
Yeah, well, Dunn only has another year left on his contract after this one, right? So he doesn't have to stick around for too long.
no, so for you it was more of a short term thing.
Well, it's to see what you got in the player. I believe he's RFA after his contract's up.
Oh.
So I mean, I think that is just and then you see what you got in the player, and if you use the players a little bit more time to develop, like Norlanders and whatnot.
That might be the best part of that trade, by the way. Having a guy in here and then potentially re-signing him RFA just so that you don't have to bring up a Gooley or a Norlander or whoever, because what we're finding out, what it looks like, not to steal the thunder and talk about Caufield if that's where you're going to go this episode, but maybe they're rushed. The KK situation again, like we always push. It seems like it's something that happens in this market. The Habs, it's just what they do. They just bring in the young talent right away. You didn't pan out after 5 games, and it's like the confidence gets shot. So if you have someone there who's like, what's that expression? One in the hands worth 2 in the bush kind of deal. Like he's proven. You know what you're getting with Vince Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's good. We know what we're gonna get. We know he's serviceable. He could be a 3-4 on the back end. We don't maybe have to rush the kids, and that would be great.
Are you saying that from last episode you got pucked? Looks like you're admitting it.
Well,
looks like you're admitting it. It's okay to admit that I was right.
Your argument seems to be in line with what they're thinking. Not that I disagree. Let's be very clear. I was given a argument side to argue for, and I did.
There's no backsies. All I'm going to say is, okay, I think there's the need for defense, and I like what you brought up there, that if you bring in somebody like Vince Dunn, you might not have to rush a Gooley or so. It's tough because I want to say that I'm okay with Strome, and I know we need that person, especially on the 3C, but I'm going to go trade with Dave, and I'm throwing shade at you, Matt, and you should have never gone with Comtois because I get it. But you were a gambling man on that one. I get it. If you would have just stopped at Strome, it would have been a little harder for me. A little harder. But you had to go on. You went a little too far. So I'm going to throw the shade. I'm going to say that you went too far, you greedy bastard. And you should have just kept it where it was. Okay? Now, Vince Dunn, I like it. It's not the first time. I was hoping that Montreal would have traded for him or tried to acquire him when it was the rumors that Seattle was going to take him. I think it would have done well for them at the time. We also weren't, if I'm not mistaken, we weren't too sure that Weber was gone. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm good with that. The dollars make sense. It would fit. It wouldn't take much. The one thing I'm going to bring up, Matt, on 2 separate trades, you wanted to get rid of Lehkonen. What's your deal?
Boy. Because I gotta figure you gotta give something back. He's on a good deal. You know what you're getting with Lecky. You know he's a PK guy. You know he's a worker. It's more defense. Obviously, you're not getting a guy who's going to be big on the points, but you know what you're getting. And I think for the value that you're getting out of him, he could be on a 3rd line somewhere in a defensive role. He could be on a 4th line somewhere as well, like he is here. You got to give to get. That's the philosophy. So I don't want to give Lehkonen. I like him a lot, but in order to improve the team, I'd be willing to sacrifice him. Just like I'd be willing to sacrifice Paul Byron, for example, albeit he is injured. I think our dear assistant captain has played his time out here. I don't know how much longer we can milk that waiver claim.
I think there'd be more
arguably
teams.
one
more
of the best
teams
waiver
lining up.
claims.
Yes.
But, yeah.
I think there'd be more teams willing to acquire Lehkonen than Byron.
I mean, I think that's proven. He was on waivers last year. No one claimed him, right?
Yeah.
I think Paul Byron's for what he is now. I think his contract's way too much for anyone to really take a chance on him or give any assets for it.
Even retain salary.
I mean, I don't know. Still, I still wouldn't be
so.
convinced. I don't think so. I think Paul Byron's sticking around for the length of that contract, and I think Lehkonen. On the subject of Lehkonen, I always found that he's one of those most frustrating players to watch because it seems as though he has everything, but he just can't finish for the life of him. And it's something that bothers me to no end watching Artturi Lehkonen play hockey.
The Finn who can't finish.
Exactly.
But defensively, and
he's amazing.
In terms of what the coaches look for when they talk about the little things, he does it.
Yeah. Okay. He's a coach's darling. Fine. But still, not worth it for me. That's somebody that I wouldn't mind.
He's got value for a team that wants that third, fourth line winger that needs he would do well in Colorado. Mm-hmm. I could see him going to a team like that's going to contend for the cup, and he'll do just the right things and and alleviate some of the pressure or some take some responsibilities away from other players that could probably benefit from a different role on a team. So. Anyways, Trader Shade, Matt Shade, Dave Trade, and you hate Lehkonen. So we'll move on from that.
That's what you got from that?
That's what I got from that. That's what you got from it.
That's what I got from that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you hate Lehkonen. So let's move on to the next thing. How was the game, guys? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you like what you saw?
Well, Matt touched on it the first I think it was the first minutes of the podcast, or maybe it was before the podcast. I don't remember when we talked about this, but the first 2 minutes of that game was just unreal.
Oh, yeah.
It was they had the Red Wings pinned in their zone and the same players on the ice for almost that full 2 minutes, whereas the Habs changed twice. They had by the time Suzuki came on to score that goal, that was the third line that was on for the Canadiens. So that was as good a start as you could have asked for. And then they scored, that second goal, and then they kind of backed up a little, backed off, played a little bit more defensive, and got the shutout. And it wasn't the flashbang 6-1 win of the past Saturday, but it was a heck of an effort, and it's something you want to see against a good team.
God, yes.
Next time, please. Like the Islanders on Thursday, which will be a lot more difficult.
To me, it was all about the effort, right? Like, yes, it was the most exciting 2 minutes of hockey that we've seen all season. I might even say it might have been the most exciting 2 minutes of season hockey we've seen in several years. Like, it was relentless. It was cycling. It was on and jumping off the going from one line to another, seamless. It was beautiful. Like, you actually thought to yourself, did anybody tell Detroit that the game started, right? Like, it just seemed like child's play. So right away, it drew everybody in. I know that at the first whistle, we didn't, the Habs didn't get a goal right away. And it was like about maybe 6 or 7 seconds after the play resumed. But at that first whistle, the Bell Center went insane, right? The crowd was cheering. Everybody's getting into it, and they were jacked up, man. And this is a crowd getting jacked up behind a 3-9 team. What are we? 3-7? I don't remember what we are. It's awful. 3-8.
We're 3-8 now. It was 2-8 going into the game.
So a 2-8 team, right? And you found a way to get the crowd into it, which is massive, because I got to figure, like a lot of people, you're sitting around, you're watching the game, and you're waiting for the next, snafu. You're waiting for the next thing, like, oh, they're going to get scored on first, or oh, they're going to do and take another 15 penalties in the first period. Like you're waiting for it. And then to see that happen was like a breath of fresh air. It was like a whole reinvigorated team. You had Josh Anderson, the power horse, going coast to coast, just being unbelievable.
He had great game last night.
He had an amazing game. And that's just one. I mean, go down the list. Suzuki had his best game of the season. Allen and Ned again, shutout, which was phenomenal. The defense looks so much better. And this is, again, no Romanov, no Caufield, Drouin at center for not even half a game until he took the puck off the helmet. Like depleted lineup. It was so weird. It was like all the things to go against it. And so, yeah, it was a really, really great game to watch. It was really exciting. And hopefully, like Dave said, it carries into the next game against New York.
Well, that's it, right? Like just how engaged everyone was. The board play down low, the crisp pass up the middle. It was beautiful to watch for once. The thing is to keep in mind, though, it's again against the Red Wings. No Dylan Larkin on top of that. Huge.
No Bertuzzi either.
No Bertuzzi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not
take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
Take it with a grain of salt. With sure.
But this goes back to like when we spoke about it in episode 1, where we were talking about what I wanted was a convincing win. And yes, this was a convincing win, albeit against a weaker opponent, and it's Detroit, and they're missing certain key players. But it was still good to see, and I hope they can build from this. And Suzuki had a heck of a game as well. I mean, both in terms of scoring a goal and getting that monkey off his back, but he also was over 60% in the faceoff circle.
Mm-hmm. He had his best game of the season. Like bar none. We talk about monkey on the back. I mean, Suzuki had a barrel of monkeys on his back, right? Like it was weighing him down. Don't know what the reason is. He's probably putting too much pressure on himself. The new contract, he's being thrust in a position now where he's assumed probably a leadership role, and he's very young still. Maybe a lot of these things are testing his character. That game might be the point where you circle it on the calendar and say, well, it was kind of rocky up until then. And now it just kind of takes off for him.
He says he spoke to I forgot his name. Is it Lutowski? Anyways, one of the assistant coaches, and that person helped him out a lot.
Yeah, they did tape together, I think I read.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So that helped him out a lot, and he did that. Now he's on a 60-point pace, which, if you heard Mike Johnson yesterday on Melnick's show, he mentioned that. He goes, "Oh, Suzuki's going to hit that 60 points. It's pretty much what everybody's expecting of him. It's not so much the point production that I think he was not going to hit. He was going to hit those around those 60 points. I believe so. He'll still hit it now. The thing with Suzuki was, as a centerman, was he going to progress this year? That was my question mark with him. Was he going to be stronger in the faceoff circle? Was he going to, being the number one guy once we knew that Deno was
going
leaving?
Up against the hardest matchups.
Going about the hardest matchups. How is he gonna excel in that new role? And how is he going to be? And yesterday was a great example, but he didn't face a Dylan Larkin. He didn't face certain opponents that he's going to face soon, or even on Thursday against the Islanders.
So here's another thing, right? So again, with a boxing analogy, they call this like a tune-up fight, right? So sometimes, and even the great ones, sometimes you need to beat up on a lesser opponent to kind of get your mojo back, to feel good, to feel like, yeah, I am king shit, like I am who everybody thinks I am. So maybe that's the catalyst that he needed. Yes, it's Detroit, and for all the reasons that we mentioned, fine. But it is still a 3-point night. It's still amazing in the face-off circle. It was still engagement.
And but to your point, go ahead, Dave.
Well, it's just, you saw him after the game in Anaheim, right? I don't know if you heard his post-game presser, but he was distraught. He looked like he was feeling sorry for himself. It looked like he was really down on himself, and it looked like he was a guy who almost defeated a little bit, and he bounced back right away, which is where, next game, he took it upon himself. He challenged himself, said he needs to be better, and he was better right off the bat. And that's what you really want to see. If there's anything that I take out of that game, because I don't put a lot of stock into that performance against Detroit. I think Detroit is not a very good team, and the guys they were lacking, he didn't go up against a first-line NHL team yet. And he didn't, we talk about the matchups. He didn't face that matchup in this game. So I'm not impressed so much with his performance yet. I'm just impressed that he was able to bounce back right after he said he was. And I would like to see that move on and carry on. And like Matt says, tune up for what's coming. And, the Islanders is not going to be easy up the middle. They're stacked. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens.
Now, Matt, to your point on what you said, like a tune-up fight and beating a lesser opponent, could the same apply for Cole Caufield going to Laval? And not saying that the AHL is a bad league or was a weaker league per se, which we know, you can't compare to the NHL in a sense, but
no,
it's a way to probably, as I mentioned in a previous episode, boost the confidence.
You know what? I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And to a point, I agree that there is a lot of stock to be put into this. I think it's all a matter of how the player reacts. So we know, I'm sure you guys heard, right? Like, of all people, it was Corey Perry, the player who now is on a different team, that reached out to Caufield to talk to him. Apparently, it was about like saying something to the effect of, "Don't worry, kid, you'll be back soon. Like, hang in there." Like just kind of like being a mentor, which is great on Perry, and kudos to him. There's a couple of things I can say about that. About like, well, why is it Perry and not somebody on the team? But that for another side. How Caufield responds, I think it's a little odd how they did it when there is 2 games that he could have still played before the first game in Laval. He could have played Detroit. He could have played New York. I think the first game that he's going to play with the Rocket is Saturday.
Yeah, but how much of a hole do you want to dig? How much of a deeper hole do you want him to dig? Right? If he's struggling and he's getting the shots in, but
to me, I didn't see that. I saw a guy progressing. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have the points, but I saw a guy who was getting more and more dynamic, more comfortable. He was starting to kind of mesh a little bit better with the lines that they were putting him on. Like, I saw upwards progression. Now, they didn't. I don't know why specifically they target him. I mean, maybe just because they know the value that he has and they want to ensure that, he still feels confident, and he kind of does look a little bit like maybe he got rocked in his confidence. Listen, I hope it works out. I hope he bangs up the AHL. I hope he pots 2 goals a game. I mean, it makes it so obvious that he shouldn't be there. That's my hope. I mean, whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know. The AHL is not a hack around league. It's for real. Yes, it's not the NHL, but we saw what he did in his brief time there last season, and I have no reason to suspect he's not going to do that again in however brief a state he's going to be there this time.
Dave?
I don't think Caufield belongs in the AHL. I think this was the wrong decision. I think that, you slot him on that third line and you make him play with Mathieu Perreault. Of course, it's going to screw with his confidence, man.
Damn right.
If he needs to go up, he needs to move up the lineup, play with Suzuki, give him more of an opportunity. And I get both guys weren't working. I get but putting him back to the AHL, I think is a recipe for disaster. I think it's a recipe for, it's kind of like the reverse Jesperi. I just feel as though they're rushing him back to the AHL when he should have never been. He came right into the NHL. That's the decision you make. You can't take a step back yet. And I think that they rushed 8 games into the season. They panicked. Okay, back to the AHL for you, and that's it. And he's there. And now you talk about pressure. I mean, he has all the pressure in the world. He's playing 3 games in the AHL where the other teams have a chance. As Matt said, it gave him basically a whole week for that AHL team. I believe it's Syracuse on Saturday to map out their game plan against Cole Caufield. And what happens if he doesn't score in his first 3 games in the AHL in the Rocket? Now you're talking about real pressure on a kid. And he doesn't seem happy about it. I don't know if you saw that picture.
That picture was hilarious.
I mean, every picture can be taken out of context. I know, but yeah, sure. He didn't look happy.
100%. He removed the Canadiens from his bio or something I read. I don't know if I haven't checked that, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. The point is that now there's a heck of a lot of pressure on him. And, who's he going to be playing with? We talk about, he's not going to be playing with anyone better than who he's playing with now.
Well, I think he's with Paling and Harvey Pinard.
Yeah. I mean, I think not exactly.
There's something to also consider, right? You're right. He wasn't put in a position to succeed by playing with Perreault and on the third line. Now he goes to Laval and he's playing on their best line. So he's going to get certain matchups. He's going to play. He's going to be able to shoot, do what he has to do, figure out his game again, and loosen up that stick a little bit. Yeah, so maybe he doesn't score in the first 3 games. Maybe he doesn't. If he doesn't score in the first 3 games in the AHL, do you think he was going to score in the next 3 games in the NHL? I mean, in a sense, yeah, if it depends, but not if he's playing with.
I don't know.
I mean, who's the third line center now, right? We don't even. It'd be Evans maybe or Drouin if he comes back.
We talk about how they manage, these players' psyches, and I think that this is going to ruin it. It's worse for a psyche than anything. Really.
Montreal as a team, I think they're across the NHL. They're not very good at that, managing a player's psyche.
Do it in bizarre ways. Like, this is just a bizarre. This guy is a guy who rode him to the Stanley Cup final, and 8 games into the next season, you're like, yeah, all right, back to the AHL, which he never really went to the AHL. He went to the AHL for a tune-up. That's it, because he was going to jump straight from college to the NHL. He played those games as a tune-up. It wasn't like, oh, let's see what's going to happen with Cole Caufield. They had to get under the salary cap. They needed their way to fit him into this team, salary cap wise. So he was never an AHL player. So you're taking him a weird step back. It's completely different than what they did to any other player. It's
It's a big gamble. I think you're absolutely right. I think the main part of that is if he doesn't succeed, you've now possibly like seriously wounded his confidence and his ego. If he does succeed, then he does a couple games there and you pop him back up and now he comes back feeling fresh, like, yeah, I know I can do this, and the gamble paid off. But the true question is, was it worth even putting it into the position for a gamble? I mean, I know I'm not the coach. I know everybody sees things different. Maybe you guys saw it different too. But the past few games that he was playing, he was on an upwards progression, even playing on the third line, even with Matthew Perreault as his centerman. I mean, it just looked like it was going to happen. He was getting so many looks. I mean, there's so many different stats out there about how, with him in the offense, he was like the top of the team of like of zone entries or something. And like the guy drives offense, it's just inevitable. It was going to happen. So like Dave's saying, I mean, it's a weird thing to do. I didn't like it in a sense that you're singling out Caufield when the whole team was slumping. I mean, is it because he's one of the only ones that you can do something with and he doesn't go through waivers or whatever? Maybe you can make that argument, but I don't know. I'm on the fence.
I didn't like it, having him exposed to such a negative environment. And it's like you said, he's one of the players that you could have done something with. So send him down. It's a little more positive in Laval right now. Let him get his minutes in. Not 12 minutes a game. He's going to play about 17, 18 minutes a game, most likely.
And on just a 2-game losing streak. Just want to point that out. You want to talk about negative environments?
2 games is a far cry from, at the time, 1-8 or 1-7.
And here's another quick question. Just, and I know it's possibly a silly thing to say, but it still, I think, has some relevance. The AHL is known for being an incredibly physical league. Incredibly. It's known for, I mean, I think just the other game there was a bunch of scraps, right? Where there was like a litter of equipment all over the ice. Is that a place where you want to put Caufield? And I'm not saying just because he's a small guy, but just anybody for that matter, in an element like that where he could potentially end up getting injured versus being in the NHL where yes, injuries happen, but it's not like that. I don't see anybody in the NHL going up to Caufield and asking him to drop the mitts versus the AHL, where, I mean, it's every second guy, right? Might want to start, whacking at him and starting some shit. So it's just another little food for thought. It's just more gambles, more things that can go wrong. So the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards maybe it wasn't the right move. But listen, time will tell.
Or Vito will tell, because he got it right last time.
That's it, maybe.
You're damn right I did. You're damn right I did.
All right, how many games does he stay in the AHL? Quick, before we move to the next topic, before they bring him back.
5.
So here, I make it easier for you. Over, under 4.
Over.
I'd take the under. Okay.
You're taking the under?
Well, you both said over.
Ooh, what an argument. No, I think it's going to be over no matter what. Even if Montreal goes on a winning streak, it's going to be over. They're going to just let him do his thing, especially if he's succeeding. If he's not succeeding, I could even see it being a month. If he's struggling that much in Laval, let him stay there and figure it out.
Fair enough. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he performs. I mean,
I just want everybody to know, just because he went to the AHL doesn't mean he's a terrible player. It's not the first time we've, I don't. By everybody, I mean everybody's going to be listening. Just because Caufield went to Laval doesn't mean he's not the same player that can score and produce like he did in the playoffs and all that. He can still be that player. The difference is that players were paying attention to him now versus in the playoffs. He was a newbie that just came in and was like, we don't know what this guy's going to do. Nobody's really watching him. Now they're watching him. You saw it. And so let him go and figure out his game. And that's where I'm going to leave it off with Caufield. And if you guys want to talk about it, well, I'll talk about it on your own time. So, guys, we're going to change it up a little bit. We spoke Habs, and I know this is primarily a Habs podcast, and we know we love the Habs, but I got a question for you. In their primes, there are 3 players I'm thinking about. In their primes, who would you rather have or build your team around? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, and Connor McDavid. And before you guys answer, I just want a simple yes or no. Does Ovechkin beat Gretzky's goal scoring record?
Yes.
No.
And
yes. I think he comes very close. Like very close. But I think he falls shy of it.
All right, so I already have a bet with Vito over his ridiculous 90 goals. What was it, 60 goals in
Over
2
2 seasons. I
60
said
goals.
flirting. I said flirting. We never defined what flirting meant.
Okay, but I'll take this bet with Matt as well. I think that he will. I think he will. I mean, obviously barring an injury, but I'm feeling the Ovechkin. I think this guy's incredible. I think he's an incredible athlete. And he's so
Let it be
fun.
said. I'm rooting for him. Let it be
He's gonna
said.
play till he's 61 if he has
I'm
to.
not. I want him to stop at
I
888
think
goals.
he has to score
You
something
don't
like
like it.
50 goals
Huh?
for the next 3 seasons straight? 4 seasons?
He's got a.
He's gonna play till he's 61, man. It's okay. Don't
He's
worry about it.
he's the Russian machine, man.
Listen, I hope so.
And then
But no, he
it'll make
won't.
you ponder, those 2 lockouts and.
Oh, but yeah. Factor that in. For sure, he smashes it. But we live in the real world. The lockouts happen. The shortened season happened. These things occurred, and the record books will show that he will be number 2, and he might be number 2 forever. By the way,
All right.
that might be something else that might happen.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with, like I said, I hope he stops at 888. I just want 8s all over this guy. He's number 8. He's the great. Just 8. I just want to, and I just don't want him to beat Gretzky's record. But I think he will. Personally, I think he will. I think he's got a strong chance to do so. If you look at even the way he's lighting it up now, if he would have started this season with like 2-3 goals in 10 games, I'd be like, there might be a decline. But it's like there's no stopping him.
He's a Russian machine.
But he's also
Cannot
never
be
had.
stopped.
He's also never had any serious injuries. So there's that. So now
Don't jinx him. Don't jinx him. Don't put that on him. Don't talk injuries and Ovechkin. But to your actual question, I can't just give a yes no answer.
No, not yes no. I want you. The yes no was for the Ovechkin question.
Oh, okay. Well, then to me,
in
it's
their
about-
prime,
to
you
me,
have
it's
to
about
factor
context.
everything about them.
Oh, there's
Well-
only one right answer for this, but I'll let Matt
Oh,
go.
I'm gonna love this
Oh,
controversy.
right.
I
Okay.
feel it.
First off, let me be a little Notre Dame here. Dave is picking McDavid. Yes.
Yeah, of course, the guy's the
Okay.
best player to ever play hockey. I
I'm
don't care
I'm
what
gonna
anyone
love
thinks.
this.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. The man's fantastic. The man might be amongst the greatest hockey players to have ever played the game. The jury's out yet. He's still young, right? Let's see cups. Let's see things. Now, here's my question back to you. Is this a fictitious team or am I the Edmonton Oilers? Because the Edmonton Oilers take
It can't
all
be the
3 of them
Oilers.
and they're never going to win. Like it's just one of those things. They're a jinx. It depends. Like, do I have great centermans? Then of course I want Ovechkin, right? Do I have weak centermans? Well, of course I want, obviously the debate between Crosby and McDavid. But I mean, it's got to be McDavid. I mean, it's got to be. I'd be remiss if I chose anybody else. Obviously, Crosby is a phenom. He'll go down as one of the greatest, just like Ovechkin. They're all great in their own rights. But I think McDavid offers more tools. The guy can score. He can set up things. He can do a lot more than perhaps Ovechkin. It's so complicated. I'm gonna say McDavid, but it's not a slam dunk for me.
Okay,
But-
I'm gonna disagree with both of you.
Yeah, but you're a Crosby
It's
guy.
Crosby. It's the guy behind me. You see that picture? It's Crosby. The guy is probably and will go down as one of, if not the best, two-way centers or all-around players of all time. One of them, if not. You're talking about a guy that, you're saying McDavid, in their first 5 years, 5 seasons, each of them, albeit Crosby played about 20 games more, but had more goals, and it was 21 more goals, had about 17 or 18 assists more than McDavid, and I have the numbers here in front of me, a 1.36 points per game for a total of 506 points versus McDavid's 469. Just that, those are just the points. Now you're talking about a guy who also won a Stanley Cup, won an Art Ross, won a Ted Lindsay, won a Hart, and won a Maurice Richard.
But you're using
McDavid won 2 Art Rosses, 2 Ted Lindsays, and a Hart Trophy. I'm not taking away from. I think McDavid will be one of the best point producers of our generation for sure, because he's the closest. He's putting up at this pace. He's going like Mario Lemieux numbers. Like he's getting close to that. Like, almost 2 points a game. It's getting ridiculous. I give him that credit. But there's something that I'm looking at McDavid, and it looks like he hasn't figured it out. And albeit, yes, he's playing for the Edmonton Oilers, he needs to sacrifice a bit of his point production for the sake of the team, in a sense. Play a bit more of a two-way game. Be the sacrifice if he has to get the status or the success that somebody like Crosby has and had. Now, yeah, you're looking at in terms of also injuries. Crosby has had certain injuries that if he never had them, and it's hard to say that because it could happen, he'd be even further along statistically speaking. And he's gone through several lockouts too.
Stats. It's
not all about stats. I also am talking about both ends of the game. Crosby can play both ends of the game very well, and we know this.
Crosby might be a touch better defensively than McDavid, but McDavid is far better offensively than Crosby.
Well, a lot of people forget what Crosby was like when he first came into the NHL. A lot of people are forgetting that. That's one. And two, yeah, he got better defensively. 100%. I mean, he's one of the reasons why, if not the reason why, they won the second Stanley Cup.
Okay, but there's also time for McDavid to do that. You talk about the point production and whatnot. I mean, there's time for McDavid to fine-tune his defensive game. He's on an Edmonton team right now that is just, I mean, it's been awful watching him there. He's toiling away with Draisaitl. They have one of the best 1-2 punches ever. And
100%.
They can't go anywhere. So, I mean, I think that the opportunity is there for him to be. But you're asking if I was building my team around who would it be? It would be Connor McDavid. Just the speed, the burst of speed, the amount.
Again, we're talking about in their prime, right? Not like Crosby now, because that just wouldn't make sense, right?
For sure, obviously.
So it's in their prime.
Yeah, and I think Connor McDavid. When it comes down to it, you build your hockey team around good hockey players, the best hockey players available. If I'm looking, the best hockey player available, it's Connor McDavid. I'm taking Connor McDavid. I'm sticking to it.
I feel what with Crosby, he made his line mates better. He made the people around him better, right?
No denying that.
What Connor McDavid makes Connor McDavid better. He'll go end to end. He'll score a point. He'll shoot off shoot on a goalie. There will be a rebound. A player's going to just pick it up, or he'll play with Draisaitl, and Draisaitl is his own show as well. Crosby played with Brian Rust. And
sure,
and a few other names. And Pascal Dupuis and all that.
Crosby makes his line mates better, but Connor McDavid is so good he don't need line mates, and that's the difference. And that's why.
Well, you know what happens when you don't need line mates? You got the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't be building my team like them. Is my point. This is a fictitious team. You gotta have McDavid as number one, and not taking anything away from even Ovechkin. Like I would take any of them to start with as a cornerstone of my team, but. If I were lucky enough to be given 1, 2, 3, knowing the future side of how good they're all going to be, I'd choose McDavid.
I'll hate to admit this because I couldn't stand the whole Crosby versus Ovechkin debate back then. But I'll admit now, Ovechkin was fun to watch. If you actually watched Ovechkin in the early days, he was
with
fun.
His tinted visor?
He was fun. He would go end to end. He would hit people like a truck. Like he was fun to watch.
He skated like crazy.
He parks his ass. He's like modern day Brett Hall. Parks his ass, gets fed, and rips a shot. Right? And it always works. And you can't take anything away from that.
Why can't that be Caufield for the Habs? You know what I mean? Just to come back to it quickly,
I think there's a little bit of
fine. There's a small nuance there, whatever.
There's about 6 inches of difference and like 100 pounds.
But you know what? The shots are so great. Both shots are so perfect. If somebody like a goddamn Backstrom could pass the puck to Ovi, why can't we have somebody on the Habs that could do the same thing? Just get him open and pass. Like watching him on the power play this season has been the most frustrating thing I've ever experienced. I mean, I don't even get into that again. But
right.
my point is,
the title of the episode, Vito, is Matt thinks Cole Caufield is better than Alex Ovechkin.
Oh,
I mean, the words you guys put in my mouth, and then I hate Lehkonen and this and that.
So
you guys,
it's on record.
Make up your own shit.
All right, guys, we said it. You guys chose McDavid. I chose Crosby, but I'll admit Ovechkin was fun back in the day, and that's the only time you're ever going to hear me say that because for me, it's still Crosby. But with that being said, thank you for joining tonight. It was a great conversation. I love it. There was some debate back and forth, and there'll be another episode shortly.
All right.
Yeah. Good stuff,
Cheers.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get pucked.